Now we'll be talking about the most awaited section of this course, and that is Apex triggers. Apex triggers are very important when it comes to create business automations in your Salesforce org. And those of you who have some prior experience working on Salesforce platform, you would be having an idea that Apex is a trigger-oriented language where most of the automation starts from Apex triggers. So this section will be covering all about Apex triggers. So before we learn about Apex trigger, first we should know what is a trigger in database. And I'm talking about general databases here like SQL, MySQL, Oracle, or you name it. Triggers are part of each and every database out there. Doesn't matter if it's a SQL database or no SQL database. And trigger is a special set of operations or statements that run when something is changed in your database. More specifically, something is changed in your database table data. For example, let's say you insert a new row in your table, or if you delete a row, or if you update a row. In all these cases, you will be making some changes to your database, and you can define some triggers to execute or to do some post-processing or pre-processing before doing these DML changes. Now let's convert this definition to an Apex trigger. An Apex trigger is an Apex code that runs when something is changed in your Salesforce object. Apex triggers are defined to run when changes are made to an object's records. For example, if you insert new record, or if you update or delete existing records, or if you undelete or recover existing records. In these cases, you can define Apex triggers and run your business automations. You can define an Apex trigger when an insert is happening in your Salesforce object, or when update is happening, or when you are deleting some records from your Salesforce object, or if you are merging the records in your Salesforce object, or if you are upserting it or undeleting these records. So an Apex trigger supports all these type of events. Now let's take a look at a general Apex trigger syntax. So this is how a general trigger in Apex looks like. You define your trigger with the help of trigger keyword. After that, you name your trigger. In our case, we named our trigger as my test trigger. Then you use the keyword on, and after that you define the S object type. In our case, I have used the lead S object. After that, you define the set of events for which this trigger will execute. For example, here we have defined a trigger on lead object that is going to execute before the insert operation and after the update operation. So this will be the very first line of your trigger, or this is how the trigger syntax looks like. After that, you will have your trigger code block where you can write as many lines of code as you want. Now let's go to our developer console and let's create a sample trigger on lead object. So here in our developer console, we need to go to File, then New, and then we need to select Apex trigger. Here we need to name our Apex trigger, so I'm going to name it as lead trigger. And then we need to select our S object. In our case, we'll be creating a trigger on lead object, so just scroll down and select lead from this list. Click on submit, and then you will see this placeholder code that developer console will create for you. So here if you notice, we get our trigger keyword, then our trigger name, then we get our on keyword, and then the S object name, which is lead. Here we get before insert by default, but you can change it to any other event as well. For example, if you want your code to execute after insert, then you can change it to after insert as well. You can have multiple events here. For example, along with after insert, you can have something like before update, after delete, and so on. So you can have as many events as you want here. So we are going to write a trigger on before insert event. So I'm going to change it back to before insert. And here within our code block, I'm going to write a simple debug statement just to demonstrate that these triggers will be auto executed by the Apex framework. So let's write a debug statement here. So that's it. Now this debug statement will be printed whenever a new lead record will be created, because we have this lead trigger on before insert event. So now what I'll do, I'll go to my Salesforce org, and here I'm going to create a new lead, and that should be it. Let's click on save. And if all works well, then you will see these multiple logs that gets generated. The reason you see these multiple logs is because once the lead record is created, then the logs are generated for the detail page view as well. So we need to find the correct logs for us. So I'm going to open the very first one, and this one is about the duplicate detector code. So this is not the one that we should be seeing. Let's open the second one, and this one is also about duplicate detector code. Let's open our third one, and this one includes our lead trigger code, right? So let's click on this debug only checkbox, and we should be seeing our lead trigger called debug statement. So this piece of code will be executed whenever you will be creating a new lead record. So this is all in this video. We have just started scratching the surface here. In the coming videos of this section, we are going to cover the triggers in detail.